directions for section 8.2 say to factor each polynomial and check your answer. When you see the directions that say factor, that means you have to write a multiplication problem. So because I have a minus sign in this problem, that's why it's not factored. So I have to find the GCF. So the GCF between 15a and 5a squared, 5 can go into 15, 5 can go into 5, and they have an a in common, and the lowest exponent is a to the first. So when you factor, your GCF goes on the outside of your parentheses, and then you are going to divide each term by your GCF. So I'm going to take 15a and divide it by 5a. I'm going to take 5a squared and divide it by 5a. So then 5 cancels into 15 3 times, and the a's cancel out. So that leaves me with a 3. Then the 5's cancel. The a on the bottom cancels one of the two a's on the top, leaving me with 1a. So I'd have minus a. So to check yourself, you go back and you distribute your answer, because factoring is a distributed property in reverse. So 5a times 3 is 15a. 5a times negative 1a is negative 5a squared. So I know it checks, and I know I've got it right. For 35x and 42, it's not factored because I have a plus sign. Okay, I have to have a multiplication problem. So that means all plus and minus signs have to be inside parentheses. So 35 and 42 can each be divided by 7, and they don't have any variables in common. So my GCF was 7. So I divide each of these by 7. Negative 35x divided by 7 is negative 5x, and 42 divided by 7 is 6. So now if I went back to check it, 7 times negative 5x is negative 35x. 7 times 6 is positive 42. And now that's factored because it's 7 times what's in parentheses. So that's a multiplication problem. So basically, to be in factored form, all your plus and minus signs have to be inside parentheses. So on number 12, or number 5, 12, 8, and 6 can all be divided by 2. So I'm going to have a GCF of 2. H to the fourth, h squared, and h all have an h in common, and the lowest exponent was h to the first. So all of these can be divided by 2h. So when I divide by 2h, 12 divided by 2 is 6. H to the fourth divided by h to the first is h cubed. Because another way of doing it is to subtract the exponents. Positive 8 divided by 2 is positive 4. The h on the bottom cancels one of the h's on the top, leave me with an h. Negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3, and the h's are going to cancel each other out. And that's factored because all my plus and minus signs are inside parentheses, and 6, 4, and 3 don't have a, the greatest common factor between all of those is a 1. And that's what you want. You want to make sure that once you're done, what's inside your parentheses can't be divided by anything. Number 7, my greatest common factor between 9 and 1 is 1. Because remember, your GCF always has to be the lowest, the smallest of the numbers, either equal to it or less than it. So 9 and 1, 1's the smallest, so 1's my GCF. And they have an m in common, so I can actually divide out an m. So if I divide out an m, 9 divided by 1 is 9. M squared divided by m is going to be m to the 2 minus 1, which is m. And a number divided by itself, m divided by m, is 1. So every time you cancel, everything cancels into being 1s. It's just typically we don't write the 1s, but they truly are 1s. So just to double check, if I actually distributed on my answer, would I get back to my problem? So is m times 9m, 9m squared, is m times 1 and m? Yes, so I know it checks. For number 9, greatest common factor between 36, 18, and 3. Well, I know that my greatest common factor, the biggest it can be, is 3. Because your GCF can only be as big as your littlest number. So the question is, can 3 go into 36? Can 3 go into 18? Yes. So my GCF is 3. They all don't have the same letter in common, so all I can do is divide everything by a 3. So 36 divided by 3 is 12. Then I have my f. 18 divided by 3 is 6, and I still have that f squared. And 3 divided by 3 is 1. So now 12, 6, and 1, greatest common factor is 1. Number 11, a model rocket is fired vertically into the air at 320 feet per second. The expression, negative 16t squared plus 320t, gives the rocket's height after t seconds. Factor this expression. So I need to figure out the greatest common factor between 16 and 320. This one's not quite so easy mentally, so I'm going to do factor trees to figure out my GCF. So 16 is 4 times 4, which is 2 times 2, and 2 times 2. 320 ends in a 0, so I can do 10. So 10 times 32. 10 is 2 times 5. 32 is 2 times 16. 16 is 4 times 4. And then these are each 2's. So I know that 16t squared can be factored into 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times t. And 320t is 1, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 2's and a 5 and a t. So what they have in common is a pair of 2's, another pair of 2's, another pair of 2's, and another pair of 2's, and a t. So that makes my GCF, 2 times 2 is 4, 4 times 2 is 8, 8 times 2 is 16t. So I can divide out a 16t from each term. So if I take negative 16t squared plus 320t, I can divide each of these by 16t. So my greatest common factor was 16t, then what goes in the parentheses is what I get when I divide out a 16t. So negative 16 divided by 16 is negative 1. T squared divided by t is t. 320 divided by 16 is 20. And then the t's cross out. Now another acceptable answer, somebody could have divided out a negative 16. So if you had the answer a negative 16t, a positive 1t, and a negative 20, that's also an acceptable answer. For number 13, that is not factored because I have a plus sign outside of the parentheses. Factoring means you have to write multiplication problems. So because I have that plus sign out there, it's not factored. So I look at each separate multiplication problem. 2b times b plus 3, 5 times b plus 3. The greatest common factor is b plus 3. So I can divide each term by b plus 3. So the b plus 3's are going to cross out, and that leaves me with what's in my second set of parentheses. What's left over is the 2b and the 5.